I never imagined I would fall in love with the unforgotten, but the world had other plans for us. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. A thick fog clung to the air, wrapping around me like a cold embrace, stinging my skin. I stood there, heart pounding, trembling hands clutching my phone. The message had arrived like a lightning bolt, unexpected, shocking. "I've found him," it said. Who was he? A name buried in whispers. The Unforgotten. A shadow of a man, lost in the stories of grief and unanswered questions. They said he came from nowhere, and yet everyone seemed to know him. My chest tightened at the thought. I felt pulled towards this mystery, a gravitational force I couldn't explain. Maybe it was the allure of the impossible. Or perhaps the thread of hope he offered, like a flickering candle in a pitch-black room. Growing up in a close-knit family, my parents were my anchors, but they couldn't prepare me for this. They worried. They whispered behind closed doors. "It's dangerous," they'd say, eyes darting away as if the truth was watching. I could see it in their faces, fear shadowing their love. But my friends were different. They dared me to take chances, to grasp fleeting moments. What if he's the one? They'd tease, shoving me with giddy excitement. But they didn't know the weight of the rumors. Unbelievable stories danced in the air around us, vanished souls, forgotten pasts, and eerie myths. Each article painted him darker, a mystery wrapped in tragedy. And yet, I felt an inexplicable connection. Like magnets drawn together in a chaotic universe. Something told me he needed me, or at least, I needed to find him. As days turned into a blur of sleepless nights and unanswered questions, I felt my resolve strengthen. I had to know the truth. I ventured into the depths of the city, the haunt of the unforgotten. Shadows loomed large, colors dulled, as if the world was holding its breath. Each step echoed, my heart raced. I was ready for the unimaginable. And then I saw him. Unearthly, yet achingly familiar. A haunting gaze swept over me, piercing through the veil of uncertainty. In that moment, time paused. My breath hitched, a lump in my throat. Who was this man? What stories had etched themselves into his skin? And why did everything about him feel like home? Before I could scream his name, before the moment could take flight, he turned away. Just like that, the alluring dream evaporated. Where did he go? Just a figment of my imagination? Was it fate, or was it just an illusion? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The fog thickened as I stood frozen in that oppressive alleyway, the fleeting glimpse of the unforgotten haunting me more profoundly than the cold air biting at my skin. My heart raced, wild and frantic, as I strained to see where he had gone. A part of me screamed to follow, to chase after the silhouette that had ignited a spark deep within me, a spark that flickered dangerously close to hope, but instead, I felt paralyzed. A sense of abandonment washed over me, mingling with feelings of inadequacy. Was I not brave enough? Did I truly believe I had the right to delve into his life, to commandeer some piece of his enigmatic reality? The questions gnawed at me. As if in a trance, I stumbled back to the cafe where I had met my friends in the days leading up to this moment. They were steeped in their usual mirth, laughter spilling over as they exchanged stories about trivial things, but I felt like a ghost hovering on the outskirts of their joy. The muffled warmth of their camaraderie felt foreign now, an unreachable sanctuary. I saw him, I forced the words out, the weight of revelation heavy on my tongue. Silence fell over the table like a shroud. Their laughter faded, faces turned towards me, eyes wide with a mixture of disbelief and concern. I need to find him. I know he is out there. My best friend Sarah leaned closer, her brow furrowed. You can't just chase shadows, okay? What if he is dangerous? What if he doesn't want to be found? Her voice held an edge of caution that made my heart sink, but it was the truth I needed to hear, even though my spirit recoiled, but I couldn't shake off the feeling that I was meant to encounter him, that intertwining destinies were at stake. He feels like home, I whispered, the confession threading through the table, laced with longing and quiet desperation. Maybe you're romanticizing a ghost, Liam interjected. You don't know anything about him. And therein lay the paradox of my emotions. The gravity of his enigma was both compelling and terrifying. I looked down at my coffee, the swirling brown liquid reflecting the storm brewing inside me. I had chased impossible things before. Perhaps this one wouldn't slip through my fingers so easily. As if summoned by my resolve, a text chimed on my phone, yanking me from my spiraling thoughts. It read simply, "Meet me tonight. 8 p.m., the old train station." My heart raced anew. Was this him? Was the Unforgotten reaching out? The promise of something potentially dangerous drew me in as much as it terrified me. Excused myself from the cafe, their worried expressions fading into the background as I navigated the streets, feeling the pulse of the city synchronize with my heightened heartbeat. Each step to the train station felt electric, charged with the weight of possibility. I hardly recognized the city around me. It morphed into a labyrinth of shadows and whispers, pulsing like a living entity that was both hostile and welcoming. As I reached the old station, its dilapidated grandeur echoed the stories of forgotten travelers, and a shiver ran down my spine. At this hour, the world seemed to hold its breath, waiting. The wooden benches wore dust like a ghostly blanket, and the distant sound of a train could be heard in the background, a reminder of journeys unmade. Figure stepped out from the shadows, hands tucked into the pockets of a worn leather jacket. My heart skipped as I recognized him instantly. The Unforgotten. Yet, just as I was about to call out, he turned quickly and walked away, fading into the darkness once more. Wait. My voice cracked in the stillness, an echo that dissipated into the chilly air. But he didn't stop. Fear rose in my throat, mingling with determination. I chased him, the distance between us elongating, uncertainty gnawing at the edges of my resolve. Please. Desperation gave my voice volume and urgency. A glimmer of his head turned briefly, and I caught a glimpse of his expression, a turmoil so profound that it nearly broke my stride. Then everything changed in an instant. A blinding light flooded the station as a train abruptly roared into life, its whistle piercing through the darkness. The rumble made my heart clang against my ribs. I was sidelined by panic. Was he going to disappear again? Before I could gather my thoughts, I felt a sudden jolt of energy beside me. A man passed, brushing against my shoulder, his eyes shadowed but burning with a fire that felt strangely familiar. An electric connection sparked, a purity of recognition that sent chills up my spine. But just as quickly, he turned his gaze to the train, watching as it flew by, leaving nothing but a haunting echo in its wake. Together, he said softly, barely above a whisper, "We can change everything." And with that, the words floated between us, laden with an unspoken promise and a hint of peril. Who was he? Another forgotten soul or something far more significant? The sensation of dread coiled tighter around my heart as the shadows drifted deeper into the corners of the empty platform. I was left with the fragments of unanswered questions spinning wildly in my mind. Did I dare follow him, or would this be yet another illusion slipping away? And why did it feel as if threads of fate were pulling taut around me, ready to unravel? The haunting silence filled with the sorrow of lost opportunities as I stood at the threshold of choices that could alter everything. The weight of uncertainty loomed, thickening the air like the fog that had engulfed me earlier, each breath heavier than the last. The cold air sliced through me, sharp and relentless, as I stood frozen at the edge of the platform, grappling with the stranger's words. Together, we can change everything. It was a call to courage that echoed through the emptiness, yet the more I thought about it, the more I questioned if change was what I truly wanted. Would the power of that bond bring light, or would it plunge both of us deeper into darkness? The train's rumble faded, and silence reclaimed the station. I caught my breath, my heart racing in the wake of both exhilaration and dread. Who was this man who had brushed past me, his presence igniting something I had buried deep within? Before I could turn my thoughts inward, I caught sight of a flicker in the shadows. It was him, my unforgotten. He stood with his back turned, shoulders rigid like the weight of the world rested upon them. Wait. I called again, the urgency in my voice striking against the stillness. He halted for a moment, and my heart leapt, a simultaneous burst of hope and fear. I stepped closer, but the pall of unspoken words hung between us like a chasm. Why did you disappear? I thought I never wanted to be found, he interrupted, his voice raw and heavy with an emotion that hung in the air. I flinched at the intensity of his gaze when he finally turned to meet my eyes, its piercing quality a stark reminder of the loneliness that lurked beneath. But there was something else, a flicker of vulnerability, a pain that echoed my own. Then why did you text me? I dared to ask, a part of me feeling like I was spiraling into dangerous territory. To vanish again? He exhaled sharply, frustration evident in the tension of his posture. I've already lost too much, he said, as though the confession broke something in him. You don't understand the darkness I'm tied to. It will swallow you whole. An unexpected surge of defiance surged within me. I want to understand. I want to help you. My voice was firm, resolute, and yet uncertainty danced beneath my bravado. I was stepping into a territory shrouded in uncertainty, one that could either lead to redemption or devastation. His eyes softened momentarily, as if a flicker of hope ignited within him before fear snuffed it out. The weight of his anguish felt palpable, heavy, and familiar. It's not that simple. You think you can save me, but I'm the one who needs to save you. What do you mean? I felt the winds of confusion swirl around us, and we stood there, two souls intertwined by threads of fate yet forged by different pasts. Your heart, it shines too brightly, he replied, his gaze hardening as though he were trying to push me away. The shadows will prey on that light. You don't want my world. It's not safe here. A small, bittersweet smile pulled at my lips. You underestimate me. I've spent too long hiding from fear. I want to fight for those who can't fight anymore. He hesitated, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the hesitation of someone who longed for companionship but feared the mingling of souls might lead to ruin. Just as he was about to speak, the world around us shifted. The distant wail of sirens echoed through the street, closer now, slicing through the fragile cocoon of our conversation. I need to go, he said abruptly, turning away, and my chest tightened at the realization that he was slipping away again. Panic surged through me, raw and untamed. No. Don't do this. I'm not what you think I am. You have to understand. His voice was desperate, tinged with the urgency of a man who had faced too many storms. The shadows laughed at our predicament, rejoicing in the way they could divide us with fear. Maybe I don't care what you think you are. I shouted, the words spilling out in a plea, an admission of the unquenchable yearning in my heart. I see you. I see the pain, I hear your call for help. Please, just tell me how I can help. He lowered his head, pinching the bridge of his nose and leaning against a crumbling pillar as if the weight of my words was too much for him to bear. You can't, he murmured, his voice breaking. You'd just be lost in my chaos. His words dug into my chest like ice, piercing through illusions of hope. But I'm already lost without you, I admitted, my voice a trembling whisper, aching with exposed vulnerability. At that moment, the man who had brushed against me earlier appeared again, standing just beyond our verbal battlefield with his eyes fixed on me. He stepped forward, a bridge forming through the chaos, and as he reached out his hand subtly in my direction, I felt a warmth radiating from him, a stark contrast to the profound chill between the unforgotten and myself. What do you choose? He asked, an unsettling calm wrapping around his voice. In that moment, amid the echo of urgency and a looming sense of dread, my heart divided itself. Could I step into the unknown with somebody who had already tasted loss, or was this new figure a guiding light or a siren leading me further into temptation? I felt myself teetering on the precipice of decision, with profound questions weighing down my heart, and then, with a sudden clang, the presence of another train roared into the scene, its shrieks and blaring lights creating a whirlwind of noise and confusion. The world twisted under the pressure of impending choices, each moment pulsating with the weight of what was to come. Two paths, the stranger murmured ominously, pain etched into the contours of his face. One will bring you closer to the truth, the other will plunge you into the abyss. As the deafening clamor enveloped us, the Unforgotten's face twisted with emotions I could scarcely comprehend, a battle between longing and despair. I looked back at the stranger, who promised change and adventure but also uncertainty. With the train blocking my view of the past, I faced the present with a heart racing dangerously close to the edge, teetering between love and the dark unknown. Which path do you choose, my light? The stranger repeated, leaving the question suspended in the air like a breath held too long, and as the fog rolled in thickly, swallowing the station, I felt myself being pulled in two directions, unable to choose, ready to fall into either of the depths before me. The weight of indecision settled around me like a heavy cloak, and the world grew fainter as if all sounds were pulled into a muffled abyss. The lights of the approaching train flickered and danced, illuminating moments of fear and desperation lurking in the edges of my mind. I was caught between two realms, one, the potential of a love so fierce it could burn brightly, and the other, a darkness I couldn't fully comprehend. Please, I whispered, a plea tossed into the wind, directed at both men who held pieces of my fraying world in their hands. I can't choose without knowing what's at stake. A flicker of understanding passed through the eyes of the Unforgotten, softening his once fierce demeanor. What you seek is truth, but truth can be a weapon. It can change everything, and not always for the better. His words dripped with the weight of experience, steeped in the pain of revelations he longed to keep buried. I'm not afraid of the truth, I shot back, desperate to clutch onto something, anything that resembled certainty. What I'm afraid of is never knowing what could have been. He hesitated, and the pause stretched like a taut string, ready to snap. I could feel the heat of yearning stirring between us, a connection born of shared burdens and unvoiced dreams. But as much as I wanted to bridge the chasm of fear between us, doubt clawed at my heart, demanding to know whether pursuing this path would lead to salvation or ruin. Meanwhile, the stranger, with his aura of quiet strength, stood unwavering. His calmness infused the air with a hint of promise, each heartbeat away from darkness underscored by an invitation to trust. My heart fluttered, aching to lean into possibility, to break free of chains that held me captive in past traumas. What if I choose you? I asked him, the words trembling on my tongue. Then the shadows will rise, he replied gently, his gaze flickering to the Unforgotten. You must understand that there will be costs. It's not just about you anymore. When you step into this world, you will be drawn into battles far beyond your own. Every battle is born of love, I countered, surprising even myself with the conviction of my voice. If there's any hope of saving him, then I'm willing to fight. The Unforgotten shifted, discomfort etching his features. This isn't some grand heroic journey, this is survival. My darkness is meant to be faced alone. Don't mistake that as a refusal of your help. I'm trying to protect you. From what? From feeling, from truly living? My frustration cut through the heavy atmosphere, a desperate vulnerability unfurling in the space between us. Any existence without connection is a life half-lived. As the train's blaring horns pierced the air, the presence of fate twisted around me. The stranger took a step closer, his hand still outstretched, offering an unspoken promise of understanding and support. It was a moment that felt eternal, stretched thin under the tension of unsaid words and unfiltered desires. In the depths of my soul, a sudden revelation surged forth, a primal instinct driving me toward the unknown. I realized I needed to trust not just in those around me, but in my own strength, deep-rooted and more resilient than any darkness. As I inhaled sharply, ready to voice this newfound determination, the screech of the train abruptly intensified, its ominous steel carving into the moment. I turned my head just in time to see the stranger's features shift, revealing a deep, bitter sorrow. "I am the darkness," he confessed, the weight of those words pouring over us like a cold rain, drenching the hope hanging in the air. "Every soul I touch is marked, tainted by my past. If you step into this with me, there may not be a way back." His admission knocked the breath out of me, cold fingers wrapping around my heart. I staggered, the enormity of his words crashing against my resolve. Could I genuinely hold on to the light of my heart while entwining my fate with a soul so marred? The gleam of desperation in the Unforgotten's eyes met mine, pleading silently for strength. "Don't let him confuse you. It's easy to get lost in the allure of the uncharted territory. The shadows will claim you, and I can't watch that happen." Tension escalated as the choices coiled tighter, weaving around my spirit. My mind raced, suffocated by the weight of what lay ahead. I need to gather my thoughts," I stammered, my voice breaking, while my heart raced in fear of making a choice that could shatter everything I held dear. But before I could step back, a thunderous clap echoed through the station as the train began to screech to a halt, shrouding the moment in chaos. The world blurred, and out of the smoke and noise, an elderly woman appeared, frail yet determined, her eyes piercing through the veil of confusion that had engulfed me. She approached me slowly and grasped my hands with unexpected strength. "Child, listen well," she spoke, her voice choked with emotion. "Neither light nor darkness is ever absolute, both are paths forged by choice. Trust not just in those who stand before you but in the strength that lies within." Her touch sent an electric pulse through me, igniting the flicker of courage I thought I had lost. It felt like a whisper of light guiding me back to the core of who I was. Just as quickly, she stepped back into the tumult, disappearing into the crowd like the threads of fate that connect us all. I turned back to face the two men who stood in stark contrast, both emblematic of the choices laid before me. My breath caught in my throat, the decision loomed larger than before, threatening to swallow me whole. As the final train whistle echoed into the night, I felt the weight of the world pressing down, overflowing with uncertainty, yet the truth began to surface. "I don't know what lies ahead," I said at last, voice stronger than it had been moments before. "But I refuse to let fear cage me anymore." And with those words, I stepped forward, the path unclear, the darkness looming, but the choice flourished in the light of newfound resolve. Unbeknownst to me, the train's car doors flung open, an explosion of uncertainty revealing more than I ever planned to confront. As adrenaline coursed through my veins, a chilling realization gripped my heart. There on the platform, a familiar face stepped off the train, eyes wide with shock. As my world grew even more tangled yet daring, the truth hung heavily in the air, promising upheaval and heartache and a revelation I never saw coming. The cacophony around me faded into a dull hum as my heart stumbled at the sight before me. There he was, Eli, standing just a few feet away, seemingly transformed by the weight of absence and time. His expression flickered between surprise and something deeper, an emotion fraying at the edges like an old tapestry. I hadn't expected to see him again, and I hadn't anticipated the mixture of joy and terror that erupted within me. "Eli," my voice escaped in a whisper, lost in the noise of the world around us. He stepped closer, the crowd around us dissipating like shadows retreating before dawn. In his eyes, I saw the mirrored complexity of love and loss, a rawness that signaled both yearning and regret. I noticed the subtle changes he'd undergone. The lines etched into his face told stories of a journey I was oblivious to, of battles fought in solitude. "Is it really you?" His voice cracked, revealing the vulnerability that lurked just beneath his stoic facade. I thought I'd lost you for good." My heart soared at his words, the warmth of them wrapping around me like a blanket on a cold night. "Eli," but before I could finish, the Unforgotten's presence betrayed an unseen menace. He shifted, muscles tensing as if to catch whatever storm was brewing between us. "This isn't the time," he warned, his tone laden with urgency. Eli's gaze flickered between us, realization dawning swift and sharp. "You're one of them," he said, the fragility of his voice pierced by the steeliness creeping into his eyes. "You're caught in this darkness." "Eli, wait," I called, desperate to bridge the chasm growing between us. You don't understand. Don't I? He retorted, the hurt spilling through the cracks of his veneer. You vanished, and now you're choosing to stand with him? Do you even know what he's asking of you? What you could lose? The weight of his accusation hung heavy, and I felt the sharp edges of my loyalties jabbing at my heart. I'm not choosing him, I insisted, fervor igniting my words. Stop. The Unforgotten interjected, his voice sharper than I'd ever heard. This isn't about you making a choice between us. This is a matter of survival. Eli's expression hardened as he processed the anger spilling from the man who wanted to protect me, who claimed to know my potential fate. You think you can shield her from this? He sneered, disdain mingling with protectiveness. You're dragging her deeper into shadows than she's ever known. Do you have any idea how this ends? Every word sent tremors through my chest, shattering my resolve. The ghosts of what I felt for Eli flared up, fighting against the pull of the Unforgotten's grasp. And through the din of emotions, I caught glimpses of the woman on the platform, her words echoing in the corners of my heart. Neither light nor darkness is absolute. Just then, as the tension reached a fever pitch, a sudden commotion erupted. A nearby group of people gasped and pointed towards something beyond the train station, their horrified faces painted with disbelief. Through the chaos, I caught sight of a black figure darting toward us, the air heavy with an impending threat that set shards of ice down my spine. The Unforgotten instinctively stepped in front of me, shielding me with his body as adrenaline surged through us. Stay close, he commanded, eyes locked onto the figure advancing from the shadows. Eli, fueled by instinct, stepped beside us, stalwart against whatever dark force sought to breach our fragile moment. Whatever it is, we face it together, he shouted, determination glinting in his eyes. Fear rippled through me, intertwining itself with an unexpected thrill as the looming darkness approached, suffocating the last vestiges of clarity. In that instant, I was torn, the weight of love and betrayal threatening to pull me in two opposing directions, but as the figure drew nearer, a face I recognized all too well, the likelihood of salvation and devastation collided within me. My breath caught as realization settled cold upon my heart. It was Blaze, the one who had always orchestrated chaos in my life, the true harbinger of a fate I had desperately tried to escape. As he stepped into the light, arrogance and mischief danced across his features, eyes glinting with a twisted sense of triumph. Well, isn't this a reunion? He taunted, his words dripping with malice. Two heartbroken fools and the tragic love caught in the middle. My world trembled as uncertainty wrapped its cold fingers around my heart. The stakes were rising, and I was once again trapped in a web of choices, feelings, and dark revelations. Would I be snatched into the abyss, or could I rise above the shadows that threatened to consume me? As the scene unfolded before us, a clash of loyalties and confronting truths, the thread of fate tightened once more, spinning ever closer to its unknown conclusion. I could only hope that I was strong enough to navigate the storm, but as Blaze's devilish grin widened, I couldn't shake the feeling that the battle was just beginning. The tension in the air was palpable, an almost physical presence that wrapped around us as Blaze's mocking laughter echoed against the walls of the train station. The shadows seemed to lean in closer, hungry to consume any light that remained between us. I glanced between Eli and the Unforgotten, each representing parts of a fractured heart, yet their allegiance was clear. They were allies standing in opposition to this chaos-bringer. Blaze took a step forward, a predator circling its prey. You've been playing with fire, haven't you? He taunted, a gleam of mischief reflected in his eyes. You think you can just waltz back in, all doe-eyed with impossible dreams? This isn't a fairy tale, sweetheart. Love won't save you from what you've become, a pawn in someone else's game. Shut up, I found myself saying, my voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. You don't know me. I'm not your pawn. Ah, but you are. Blaze smirked, his voice smooth like silk but with edges that could cut glass. Whether you realize it or not, everyone you care for is already deeply embroiled in this. Eli's choices have led him here, and you? He gestured dismissively toward the Unforgotten. He thinks he can protect you, but he's just another player in this dreary theater. Do you think love can shield you from the storm? You're all just dancing around the inevitable. Eli clenched his fists at his side, every muscle in him taut with restraint. You're wrong, he said, voice low and firm. We're not dancing, we're fighting. Whatever darkness you've brought here, we will face it together. Together? Blaze chuckled darkly, and it sent shivers down my spine. You really think bonds forged in desperation can withstand the weight of true darkness? Before I could respond, a flicker of movement caught my eye, and I turned to see a group of individuals emerging from the shadows, their expressions a mix of uncertainty and defiance. I recognized some of them from my past, faces etched with familiarity, memories both painful and tender. They had once been part of our world, and now they were stepping into this chaotic tangle with their own unresolved stories. There was Clara, her fierce spirit unwavering even now, and Marcus, a quiet strength emanating from him. The presence of so many familiar souls burdened with their struggles brought a sudden flicker of hope amidst the darkness. Could we truly stand together against what Blaze represented, or would history repeat itself, spiraling into further despair? Why are you here? I called out to them, my voice mingling desperation and disbelief. We came to find you, to help, Clara replied, her eyes resolute. We know Blaze's games, and we're not afraid to fight. Fear doesn't protect you, Clara, Blaze jeered, sidestepping their resolve. But if you want to play, by all means. Just remember every move you make has a cost. As he spoke, a heavy silence draped over us, the weight of unkept promises and fractured trust beginning to absorb the flickering hope gathered in this moment. I could sense the uncertainty radiating from those who stood beside me, combining with my own apprehension. Could I rely on this newfound alliance? What if old wounds reopened in the face of new challenges? The Unforgotten stepped forward slightly, positioning himself between me and the encroaching darkness. His vulnerability mixed with defiance offered a strange comfort, reinforcing the swirling feelings within. We won't let fear dictate our choices, he declared. This is bigger than any individual, it's about choosing light even when the shadows loom. Eli's stare remained locked onto mine, determination interwoven with an unspoken plea. Whatever happens next, we face it together, all of us. Just then, Blaze's eyes glimmered with mischief, and without warning, he raised a hand. A dark rift unfurled before us, a swirling maelstrom of darkness and light, an invitation to chaos enticingly woven with dread. You all want to fight? Then let us see what you really care about. Time to say goodbye to your bonds and see who truly survives this game. Before I could process his words, the rift pulsed violently, lurching as if it had a heartbeat of its own. An icy wind rushed through us, beckoning with memories good and bad, threatening to tear apart the fragile connections forged in this tumultuous moment. As everyone braced themselves for what was to come, I felt a twist in my gut. The ground shivered beneath our feet, the rift vibrating with an ominous hum that deepened my anxiety. Do you trust them? The Unforgotten whispered, the question hanging heavily between us. I hesitated, torn in the cacophony of my heart. My choices felt sealed within a cocoon of darkness, and yet, within that darkness, I spied a glimmer of possibility. Would I embrace the chaos, or could I forge ahead despite the uncertainty churning within? With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I reached for Eli's hand and the Unforgotten's, a silent vow of solidarity amidst the chaos. But just as our fingers brushed, a deafening roar erupted from the rift, drowning out my thoughts. Something ancient and powerful was awakening, and I knew, in that moment, that whatever emerged from the shadows would change everything, including the fragile balance of my heart. As the ground trembled beneath us, I braced for the inevitable storm, hope mingling with dread as the impending clash loomed closer than ever. The howling winds intensified, and the shadows surrounding the rift began to take shape, swirling like a tempest that anticipated the chaos within. Time distorted, a mix of anticipation and fear swirling in the air, drawing closer with the promise of upheaval. The eyes of everyone present flitted from the rift to one another, as a mixed chorus of emotions painted their faces. Stay close, Eli shouted, his voice authoritative, cutting through the turmoil. I felt the warmth of his grip tighten around my hand, a lifeline tethered to hope amidst this encroaching doom. Beside me, the Unforgotten mirrored Eli's stance, his silent support radiating a strength that trickled into my bones. Blaze's laughter echoed once more, mocking yet eerily melodic. "Oh, how touching!" A little hand-holding amidst the chaos, he sneered, motioning grandly, like an actor fully immersed in his role. "Let us see if love is enough to ward off the despair that's creeping in. You may find it dimming rather quickly." Another pulse from the rift sent a tremor through my being. I closed my eyes, squeezing Eli's hand, allowing the sensation of his heartbeat to drown out the chaos outside. "We can't let him win," I breathed out, fighting against the wave of panic rising in my chest. "We can't let fear unravel us." Just as the words fell from my lips, a blinding light erupted from the rift, illuminating the darkness that clung to our souls. The overpowering brightness washed over everything, and for a heartbeat, I thought we might be swallowed whole. I could feel Clara's shoulder brushing against mine, her presence a comforting reminder that I was not alone in this fight. Then, from the brilliance of the rift, figures emerged, a haunting parade of lost and forgotten souls, their forms flickering like candle flames about to be snuffed out. They looked like us, but twisted with pain and despair, their eyes hollow sockets filled with boundless sorrow. "Your pasts have come to haunt you, to remind you of your weaknesses," Blaze taunted, his delight unmistakable as he watched our faces distort in horror. "Let the games begin." As the spectral figures began to merge with the darkness, I felt cold tendrils wrap around my limbs, pulling me toward the rift. Memories filled my mind, memories that went deeper than the surface of what I had been prepared to confront. There was the laughter from carefree days, shadows of friendships ripped apart, and sorrowful goodbyes I had buried deep in the recesses of my heart. Each flash brought stabs of regret and pain, seeking to unravel the newfound hope, bringing me together with Eli and the Unforgotten. "No. You don't own me," I yelled defiantly, fighting against the encroaching pull, my cry echoing in the strange silence that followed. The rift roared back, a cacophony of voices overlapping, drowning my resolve with their cacophony of lost dreams. I could feel Eli squeezing my hand tighter, and together, we stood our ground against the overwhelming tide of despair, but the more I resisted, the more the memories dragged at the edges of my consciousness, relentless and relentless. I saw Marcus's anguished expression and wondered where loyalty truly lay. I thought of Clara's fierce spirit, realizing how fear had fractured our connection before. I felt the ancient weight of the Unforgotten's grief, a reminder of all the sacrifices made in futile attempts to stem the inevitable tide of darkness. "Look at them!" Blaze shouted in delight, his laughter twisting into something sinister. "They're your failures, your mistakes. They'll only drag you down." "No." I shouted again, though my voice trembled, even I could hear the gnawing doubt creeping in. "They're not my mistakes, they're my stories. They've shaped me, but they don't define me." In that moment of fierce affirmation, a flicker of something glimmered in the depths of the rift, a spark of light trying to push against the shadows clamoring for dominance. I turned, my gaze locking onto Eli and the Unforgotten, their faces painted with determination. Their unwavering belief ignited a fire inside me, and I realized that it wasn't just my memories that defined me, it was the people standing with me, the choice to embrace love despite the chaos swirling around us. "We will face this together," I proclaimed, my voice cutting through the haze of doubt. As if my words had unlocked a hidden power, a rush of energy surged through our connection, and the brightness from the rift flickered once more, as if indicating a reckoning. Yet, just as it seemed we might overcome the shadows, the rift pulsated violently, revealing something terrible within, a massive figure beginning to uncoil, robed in darkness and life itself. Its presence stole the breath from my lungs, the air thick with its malevolence. Suddenly, a voice broke through the cacophony, my mother's voice, long silenced by the very shadows we fought against. "My sweet child," it crooned, weaving in and out of the noise, "you never tried to understand what the darkness needed from you. It's time to choose." As dread seeped into my very essence, I realized the impending choice wasn't merely a fight against Blaze, it was a choice of identity, a revelation of everything I had ever feared. That voice had come not just for the sake of torment, but for the power to shape me from my roots. With the weight of that revelation settling in, my heart raced. I wasn't ready for the past to resurface, and the ground beneath us lurched, spiraling into uncertainty. Would I falter in the face of my greatest fear, or rise stronger amidst the shadows? The choice loomed closer than ever, and as the figure began to emerge, I knew that whatever revelation awaited us on the other side of this chaos would forever change the trajectory of our fight against Blaze. And with that thought, the tremor surged forth, ripping reality wide open, leaving me teetering on the brink of discovery and dread. The shadows flickered and danced wildly, as if caught in a tempest of despair and longing. I felt Eli's breath hitch beside me, a mirror to my mounting apprehension. The roar of the rift intensified, drowning out the faint echoes of my memories, drowning out the comfort of warmth and connection. With each shuddering pulse, the darkness intertwined itself around us, lumping our fears into a singular knot deep inside my chest. "Focus," Eli urged, his voice resolute. I could see the small beads of sweat lining his brow, the taut lines of determination etched across his face. Suddenly, I remembered the stories Clara had shared of the unforgotten, a people often condemned to float through despair, yet forging unbreakable bonds through shared loss. Perhaps in their united sorrow, we could find our own strength. Yet something shifted, an unsettling energy thickened the air, turning our courage into an almost tangible entity. I felt the unsettling pull of deeper sorrows, the kind that lay beneath the surface of our memories, waiting to consume me when I was least prepared. What if this is all just a test we're unable to pass? I whispered to Eli, my voice trembling as I searched his darkening eyes for answers. He squeezed my hand, steadying me against the rising tide of tremors crashing at my feet. "We have faced darker things than this," he replied, his voice low and earnest. "Think of all the times fate sought to break us. We can either succumb to the past or wield it like a weapon." Eli's conviction ignited something within me. I remembered why I had fought, why I had come this far. Our shared journey, the friendships born from the fires of our anguish, and the flickers of kindness that had somehow found their way into our darkest moments. I turned my gaze to the unforgotten, standing with resolve once more, their stories interwoven with ours like a tapestry. But just as hope began to kindle, a violent surge erupted from the rift. The massive figure shrouded in darkness twisted like smoke coiling in on itself, monstrous and heaving with rage. "Enough with your camaraderie. Your connections are nothing but delicate strands waiting to snap, and I will be the hand that breaks them." Blaze's laughter filled the air, taunting us from within the depths of the rift, blending with the apparition's dreadful roar. "Prepare for annihilation," he bellowed, the shadows emanating from the incalculable figure thrumming with a palpable malevolence. "Look within you," my mother's voice echoed, reverberating against the walls of my memory. "What do you fear the most?" I felt the air still for a heartbeat, as though time itself had paused to weigh the gravity of her question. What did I fear? The darkness unfurling before us cried out for this answer, and I grasped desperately for the truth buried beneath layers of longing. "I fear failing those I love," I finally replied, my voice barely more than a whisper, fragile against the whirlwind of chaos. "In my quest to push through the shadows, I fear I will lose you, Eli. I fear I will lose all of you." Eli's eyes shone in the radiance of the rift. "And that's what makes us strong. Our fears will not define us, they will unite us." His voice surged in a crescendo, rushing to embrace the truth of our bond, but then, a jolt of terror coursed through me as I felt Clara stagger beside me, her fear trickling into the collective strength we had forged. "It's the memories," she cried out. "They're infecting us, they're turning us against one another. We must confront them to fight back." And like paper caught ablaze, the figure bellowed back, "Do you recognize the chance for true despair that lies between your hearts? It is the human condition. Your love and your connection is weak and pathetic." With no alternative in sight, our bonds clutched tighter together. The shadows of doubt clawed at the edges of my resolve, whispering lies that twisted my perception of what lay ahead. A surge of fury ignited within me as I shouted back into the tempest, "You are wrong. Our connections are not weak. They are our greatest strength." The moment I uttered those words, I felt a heat surge through our hands, an energy born of conviction, with Clara and the Unforgotten bolstering our resolve. The rift began to pulse violently, as if responding to our cries, and I could sense another layer to the chaos. "Do you wish to connect so deeply?" Blaze's voice hissed, mocking yet curious. "Will your love become a weapon for them? Are you ready to fight?" As the figure loomed closer, outlining the shapes of everyone I held dear, their faces began to transform, their eyes shimmering with both anguish and fierce determination. Who was I to lose heart when they stood ready to face the darkest corners of their own souls? Hope flickered anew as I tightened my grip, essence melding into a singular force. When I opened my eyes, fully aware that our combined strength now surged toward the rift, the figures, a twisted embodiment of our pasts, began to shimmer before me. I could see my own swirling face within them, and I understood that this moment was a choice to step into the shadows together, or allow the rift to consume us individually. Just then, the ground beneath us trembled violently, and I glimpsed a terrifying vision, echoes of futures not yet lived, of rifts that not only sought to drown us in darkness but attempted to erase every connection we had ever forged. In that instant, I knew the stakes had never been higher. The rift's shadow enveloped us, a curtain rising to unveil our final act of defiance. Would the flames of hope burn bright enough to fend off the despair surrounding us? As the figure reached its precipice of revelation, I stood on the brink of decision, realizing that the coming storm would test the very essence of what we had become. The air was thick with an unshakable tension that vibrated in my bones. Around me, the faces of my companions Eli, Clara, the Unforgotten became a blur as the darkness pressed in with barbed fingers, seeking to pull us apart. I fought to keep my focus on the tempest of shadows that loomed larger, a predator edging closer, but the flickering light of our shared hope offered a flicker of warm reassurance. As sweat dripped from my brow, I sensed Clara's breath next to me, shallow and wavering. "What if we don't survive this?" she whispered, her voice trembling as uncertainty wrapped around her words like a cold shroud. "What if the rift truly understands us in ways we don't?" I turned toward her, finding strength in her vulnerability. "Then we do not fight just for ourselves, we fight for the memories we've woven together." "Even in despair, there's beauty to be found," I replied, my heart pounding against the cage of my ribs. "We owe it to ourselves to honor those connections, to surrender to them." As if sensing the shift, the figure writhed in response, sending shockwaves through my frame. "Connections are nothing more than anchors," it taunted, its voice a chilling growl that echoed within the depths of my mind. "I will show you the truth behind your delusions." In that moment, I was swept away into a cascade of memories, drowning in familiar warmth before plunging into icy depths. I watched scenes unfold, my mother laughing, Eli's gentle smile during the darkest of times, Clara's unwavering support. But then the darkness twisted those visions into grotesque parodies of joy. My mother's laughter turned to despair, Eli's smile twisted into a grimace, Clara's light dimmed to ashen gray. "No!" I cried out, desperate to break free of the tendrils of despair that sought to hold me down. "That's not who they are." My voice cracked against the weight of the lies wrapped around my heart like chains. "Those moments are real. They are the very fabric of our existence." Suddenly, Eli's hand found mine, warmth radiated from his touch, a lifeline in the suffocating dark. "Fight it, Clara. Fight it," he urged, his voice fierce, pulsing with conviction. "These memories don't define us, we shape them with our current selves." The air shimmered around us as if the rift recoiled from our intent. "You think your bond is impervious?" it howled, a rebuttal steeped in disdain. "Look at the fractures. Look at the wounds. Your connection is stained by the very suffering you pretend to conquer." With every ounce of strength, I reached deep within myself, uncovering the truths cloaked by grief. Yes, we suffered. But we also loved and healed. I yelled into the void, channeling my anguish into resilience. Our connection isn't built on shadows, it's forged through light. Silence followed, interrupted only by the echo of my own heartbeat. Suddenly, I was transported to another place, a clearing beneath a sprawling sky where laughter melded with whispers of hope. I saw each person I loved, not through the rift's twisted lens, but through the memory of what truly was. The rift convulsed, angered by my conviction, and Blaze's laughter twisted within it, mocking yet desperate. You think love can save you here? Go ahead, be vulnerable. Embrace each other's pain, watch as it crumbles beneath your feet. But as the taunts escalated, I felt a tingling warmth spread through my heart, ignited by the memories of kindness etched into the fabric of my soul. This connection, this unbreakable tapestry of shared moments, pulsed with a heartbeat of its own. For while the shadows sought to sever our bonds, each person beside me was a thread woven into something so much larger, and that realization, light poured into the darkness, pushing back against the cruelty. Love is power. It will hold us together when all else fails, I shouted, grappling for the hands of Eli and Clara as I stepped forward, unyielding against the maelstrom. But just as we gathered strength together, another dark shape slithered forward through the rift, a figure draped in shadows and despair. You talk of love, yet you carry your scars. We see them, your failures, your fears. They tell me you are nothing without your memories, it hissed, eyeing each of us cruelly. As I turned toward my friends, ready to face this new challenge together, the ground began to tremble violently beneath us. I felt the world shift, as though reality itself threatened to fragment, and out of the chaos, a chilling voice broke through, one I recognized too well, echoing off the shadows surrounding us. Mia, it was the whisper of my father, a ghost of the past creeping into the spaces between us. You must confront your own darkness to embrace the light. They will not survive if you do not. Panic surged through me at the weight of his revelation. What are you saying? I stammered, dread pooling like ice in my gut, but before he could respond, the shadows edged closer, dark and hungry, waiting for my response. Could I truly face the depth of my own despair? Or would I let the darkness consume not just me, but everyone I loved? In that precarious moment, I felt the overwhelming pressure of their hope in my hands, and I understood this was no longer just a battle against the rift. This was a reckoning, a clash not only with the shadows that sought to bind us, but with the very essence of who I was, and I stood on the precipice, ready to plunge into the depths, a choice made not just for me, but for all of us. The shadows twisted violently, their malevolence palpable as I felt the weight of my father's words wrap around me like a shroud. As the cries of the figures emerged from the rift, each pose a fractured reflection of my past, I understood that I hadn't just been fighting against external manifestations of fear, I was battling against the heart of my being. This was deeper than darkness, it was grief, it was guilt, it was every moment that had pushed me to hide, but no more. I felt my heart thundering in my chest, fueled by an unyielding desire to not only confront the turmoil within, but also to harness the overwhelming force of love that pulsed between all of us. I turned to Eli and Clara, each of their eyes filled with a mix of fear and unwavering support. Their belief in me ignited a furious blaze of determination. We can't let it tear us apart, I declared, my voice ringing out. We face whatever resides in this darkness together. Our memories might shape us, but they don't have the power to break us. As if responding to my conviction, the figure slithered closer, darkness swirling like a cruel tempest around it. But I realized that it couldn't break what had been forged in connection. I reached for Eli's arm and Clara's hand, linking us together in this moment, grounding the love we had built through shared struggles and victories. Let it come, I challenged the shadows, my voice unwavering. We're not your puppets, nor will we ever be. In a blink, the darkness erupted around us, merging into a mist of swirling despair, reaching for the corners of my mind in desperate attempts to snare my thoughts. Yet, as the figure advanced, I felt a surge of warmth from my friends and energy charging between us, fortifying our purpose and illuminating the path forward. United in this fleeting moment, we stood firm against the tide. Remember the joy, Eli murmured, his voice steady and calm amidst the chaos. Fight for the light. He squeezed my hand, and I could see Clara nodding, her spirit igniting the embers of courage within me. As we braced ourselves, memories began to form in the ethereal mist, my mother's laughter, my father's resolute gaze, the warmth of my friends lighting the dark corners of my heart. Each memory resonated with strength and resilience, defying the shadows as they lurked closer. With every vibrant vision that emerged, the rift shivered, and the figure hesitated, thrown off balance. Your memories mean nothing. The echo of Blaze spat, but I could feel the tremors beneath his facade. He was losing power over us. I took a deep breath, focusing on the memories mounting within while pushing against the dark. That's where you're wrong, I shouted into the churning chaos. Our memories are our foundation. They remind us of our loves, our fears, everything we've fought to overcome. As if summoned by my words, the memories of hope began to swell before us, every shared laugh and tear, every success and moment of healing. We will not lose our light, I proclaimed as the silhouettes of love wove themselves into a tapestry surrounding us, growing vibrant and fierce. The shadows recoiled, and a thin line of light burst from the center, illuminating our surroundings, a promise that love had the power to conquer the deepest despair. The figure wavered, caught momentarily between the encroaching light and the retreating dark. Embrace the light, Clara yelled, her voice ringing above the chaos, determination lacing her words. Together, we stepped forward, hearts joined in unison, pushing against the darkness that still threatened to consume us. We are not defined by our scars. I was soaring now as the power of our shared bonds drew strength from every piece of our journey, rippling between us in luminescent waves. We are defined by love. With those words, the shadows screamed, engulfing the figure in their rage, but we scattered the dark like dust before a roaring flame. The energies swirling around us danced and erupted, pushing the shadows back, illuminating our resolve as we stood together, an unbreakable triad in the face of despair. The figure writhed. I could see its sinuous form dissipating into swirling tendrils that lost their grip on the edges of reality. No. You will regret this, it shrieked, but beneath the chaos, I felt something shatter, a barrier breaking. The darkness was receding, and that profound moment, clarity took hold, revealing truths I had once buried deep within. Love was not a weakness. It was my very strength, a force forging connections that cascaded through time and space alongside my memories. As the shadows faltered, I saw a flicker of light beyond Eli's eyes, sparkling with fire and encouragement, the Unforgotten standing tall beside us, a resolute warrior reborn amidst the light of hope. I reached for my past not with fear, but with an acceptance of everything that had shaped me. Blaze's laughter morphed into a gurgled scream as the darkness shattered, releasing tendrils of light that spread through the rift like the dawn breaking over a long, dark night. We are love, I cried, our voices rising together like a crescendo that filled the void, and we will not falter. And with that declaration, the darkness imploded into a radiant light, bursting forth from the center of the rift, flooding the station with a brilliance so pure it infused the very air with warmth. As the light enveloped us, I felt the shadows dissipating, and with it, the lingering pain of the past uncoiled and fled, stood, hand in hand, amidst bright flashes of what had been and what could be woven together by a tapestry not just of loss, but of love. In this moment of clarity, I realized the true meaning of resilience, the unwavering connection echoing between us, the rift sealed behind us, the darkness vanishing, leaving only the soft, gentle glow of a new dawn. We had found freedom together. Love had conquered, and my heart swelled with a beauty that felt like home. As the echoes of the past whispered invitingly, I turned back to Eli and Clara, our eyes shining with memories yet to be made. I looked at the Unforgotten, who had now transformed into a guardian, an ally standing resolutely beside us. In the warmth of that moment, I whispered the words that had always lingered on the edges of my heart. I forgive you, I forgive myself. Together, we'll keep moving forward. And as the sun began to rise, casting tender rays across the fragile world around us, I understood then that each day would bloom anew. Shadows might linger, but the light had finally found its way home. Love, in all its forms, would always guide us through the darkness. The final whisper of the dawn carried my thoughts softly into the air, resonating in my heart. We are the architects of our own destiny, built on the foundations of love, allowing our stories to intertwine forevermore.